Streaming right?
It's going live right now on YouTube. It's preparing to stream right now. So give it 1 second.
Okay. Yeah. Just tell me when we're ready.
Okay, we should be up.
Okay, let's call to order the Board of Library Trustees for Arlington Heights Memorial Library Special Board Meeting for Monday, December 7th, 2020. Roll call, please.
Trustee Meadow?
Here.
Trustee Rule is currently not here. Trustee Smart?
Here.
Trustee Suplet?
Here.
Trustee Tangney?
She's here.
Christy.
Okay, she waved, and President Sick.
Sorry about that. Here.
Here. Okay. And to say that we are having this over Zoom because we're following the state and county guidelines. And so we don't want to have too many people in the room. So we are doing this over Zoom again. Okay. Public comment. There was one public comment. Let me bring this up. From Margaret Bash. The park buildings are open. The library is a huge space. Why can't the libraries be open with mitigations? The board talks about diversity. Arlington Heights is a diverse community, and there are aspects of the physicality of the space that are needed by segments of our population. Thank you. Thank you, Margaret. Yeah, I guess to this point, if anybody else wants to chime in here too, we have taken things like that into account. So I just do want to get that out there. We are really taking our responsibility to our customers very seriously, and we're also taking responsibility for our staff also. We've adjusted the services as much as we can to make sure, by the guidelines, but that are out there, but still providing a majority of our core services. So I do definitely though appreciate the thoughts on that one. Okay, was there any other public comments?
No other public comment.
Okay, all right, so let's just kind of keep moving on here. Let's go to action item 1, awarding of makerspace project bids.
Okay, so we went back out to bid for the balance of the makerspace construction. We received the bids back, and on November 24th, we had the opening of the bids. Andy Dogan from Williams Architect is here tonight to discuss in detail as to what our recommendation is moving forward. But essentially, our recommendation will be to accept the base bids as presented with the addition of 2 alternates, one being the vestibule reconfiguration with the ADA accessible ramp and additional storage in the kitchen. And then alternate number 8, which would be the removal of roof railings from the bid in favor of us providing those through our staff. So Andy, I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of walk through the process and where we're at.
Sure. Thanks, Mike, and good evening, everybody. Thanks for having us tonight. I'm really happy that we have good news this evening. Basically, in addition to Mike's comments, to make sure that we were on budget, we needed these bids that we received to come in at about $724,000. The base bid amounts at least, and we were fortunate to see those come in at $688,500. So, excuse me, roughly 5% under budget, exactly where we want to be for this sort of work. So with that, we also, first of all, Shales McNutt Construction and Natalie from our office went through scope reviews with all of the bidders, made sure they were comfortable with the scope. They didn't have anything left out. All of the low numbers did check out. The bidders were comfortable. So in looking at the low bids and looking at the alternate prices, our suggestion was for the library to accept the base bid of the project. In looking at the alternates, the pricing for alternate number 2, which is the vestibule reconfiguration that gives you the ramp, moves the inside entrance doors in and creates a storage room off of the kitchen. That pricing came in lower than expected, and we think that really fundamentally positively changes the use of the space. Our recommendation is to accept that alternate, and our recommendation is further to accept the deduct alternate for safety railings at the roof, for the simple reason of the library can get a $22,000 and change credit for something that it can provide with its own forces for around $5,000. The railings are entirely freestanding. They don't require installation. They just have to be placed up on the roof and painted a color to match the stone caps at the roof parapet. So with those two alternates, that leaves us a little more than $31,000 under budget. At this point, we recommend maintaining that under budget amount as a contingency of sorts, just to potentially address any unforeseen items that may come up during the process. And if for some reason we don't find those, that will be money that's available to further improve the project at some point, or for any other purpose within capital the library may see fit. So with that, I'd like to again summarize and emphasize that I think we're in really good shape. We hit where we needed to be. We're able to accept an alternate that really fundamentally changes the project, but certainly want to answer any questions or concerns that you as the board may have.
No, Andy, if I could just say, very good job. I know we did have to cut back, obviously, on some areas that we originally wanted to, say, like the sewing area and different things like that. But we're doing the right thing to get this thing really going and doing it. Trying to think grammatically the right way to say this. We're doing a very good job for the people of the village. So I don't have necessarily, obviously want to hear from the other trustees, but I don't necessarily have any issues with what you're recommending, though. And I know you tried to explain this, or Mike, you tried to explain this in the document, but I just want to make sure the getting rid of the safety rails. Anytime I hear of getting rid of anything that's got the word safety in it, my antenna goes up on that. Are there any issues that we have to worry about by not having that?
What we want to emphasize here is that we're not actually getting rid of anything by accepting this alternate. We're just changing who supplies it. The bottom line is this is an item that can easily be purchased by the library directly for about $5,000. And if we do that, versus paying two different contractors $22,000, you end up $17,000 to the positive with the same end result. So we're not suggesting that we eliminate anything. We're just suggesting that we change how we source it to be able to get better pricing.
So is that additional $5,000 that we're going to have to do? Is that we're going to put in there? Is that factored in here then?
It was when I mentioned that $31,000 and change that we intend to sort of hold as a contingency fund. That includes that money that we know we need to spend for that.
Okay, very good. Christy, yes.
Just a follow up on that, Andy. So you said there's little or no installation that's needed. Who's going to install those guardrails?
They are literally, that's a great question. They are literally freestanding. They're weighted. They come in a box and they are put up on the roof and put in place per drawings. So there's really no insulation or penetrating of the roof or any other thing that's needed. That's one of the reasons why we put this alternate together, because it's something that is doable with the library staff. The hardest thing to do, quite honestly, is to get them up on the roof, but renting a scissor lift for about $200 or so will accomplish that pretty nicely. But there's no actual installation. It's just placing something that's purchased.
Can I add to that?
Yes, please.
Basically with the bids, that number was given by two of our lowest bids. One of the contractors, I think it's the general, gave a no price addition for doing that work. And the other contractor had additional money on the alternate. So the alternate we're accepting is the removal from the person who's going to charge us more. So the general is still going to install these pre-purchased things that we are buying. They are going to be the ones that are putting it on the roof. The library is not going to be responsible for placing them on the roof. The general contractor is.
Okay, well, that's even better information. I wasn't aware of that.
That's great. Good. Nice stuff.
And Mike and everybody else, we're happy with the quality of the bids that we got in. I take it we're happy with the contractors and everything.
Yes.
I would say, yes, we had at least 3 bidders in each of the trade packages, which is exactly what we're shooting for. So I think we had good coverage. We had a number of the contractors who were low in our first rounds of bid end up being low again, and they're all people that Shales McNutt has worked with. Several are people that Williams has had on our projects before. And again, Natalie from our office, as well as the Shales McNutt team, did review all of the bids. So I think there's a good level of comfort there.
Hey, Greg, can I ask a question? It's Debbie.
Absolutely, Deb.
So I want to go back to these railings. So I want to make sure that we're very clear that if we have some of the windstorms like we've had this fall, these railings will not be displaced from the roof. Is that correct?
It is, Debbie. They are designed and weighted in a base to meet wind codes for the area that we are in.
Okay, because the last thing I want to see is these things flying off the roof.
Understood, nor do we.
Okay.
John? You're on mute, John.
Thanks very much. Good job. Well done. I want to make a pitch for item 7. And for those who don't recall, it is the pendant lights, the industrial pendant lights in the Flex 1 space. And if I can share my screen, I can show you what those are. So you can see those there. That's what we're talking about.
Are those the pendant? Those aren't the pendant lights, though.
Those are the pendant lights, as opposed to the flat ones. Okay. And so what I want to do is ask the board to consider the $7,400 for the pendant lights, which would be alternate number 7 in the amount of $7,400. It would make the overall cost $694,452. The contingency amount would decline to $24,448, but the total would not exceed $724,000.
John, can you go over the reasoning for the change in the lights?
Yeah, so the reasoning is that the flat lights here are LED, and once they're up, they're not going to move. I mean, that's an infrastructure decision that's made really made early, and the likelihood of and the cost of having to replace it or upgrade it with the pendant lights just wouldn't happen. So this is considered a better aesthetic. I think the visibility will be good too, and I would just prefer to take the alternate and go with the slightly higher end version of the lights, which I think will be more aesthetic and more attractive over time.
John, I think it's much more attractive. What about the lumens that are produced? Is it more efficient so people can see better with these kind of lights, or are they, Andy, do you know their equivalent or what?
Natalie, you may know better than I.
Natalie did this, yeah.
But I think that the engineer ended up with the same number of lights, if I remember correctly, because they produced the same number, same illumination level.
Okay.
Do I recall that correctly?
That I'm not sure about. That is in the plans. However, the same lumen light level was output for both alternates. So the work at desktop surface lumen light level is what both of the alternates addressed.
Yeah.
So if it is a couple more fixtures for the more decorative pendant, that has already been accounted for.
Yeah, so to get the same light level, it is the same light level between the two different fixtures.
Okay.
We have to have a few more of these decorative fixtures to achieve the same light level, which is part of what drives the cost.
Okay.
So I'm trying to, is besides aesthetics, John, is it, I'm trying to get my head wrapped around the reason why. Is it besides?
It's aesthetics.
Is it?
Yeah,
It looks much better, less industrial looking.
exactly.
Just
Mhm.
aesthetics?
Mhm.
Yeah, because the lumens are the same. All things equal, the lumens are the same. That's the point, but.
Right.
Yeah, it's welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably, if the lumens are the same, I'm probably more inclined to just to stay with the ones that we have and not spend the additional 7,400 for the look. But that's my thought. Obviously, we've got 5 people on here to decide that.
Natalie and Andy, weigh in on what you think on the aesthetics. You know, we're seeing pictures. Perhaps you've seen these, you've used these actual fixtures in, in construction. And what do you think?
Sure. Thank you, Carol. I mean, our preference, all things being equal, would be to really have this nice industrial look in the first impression with these pendant fixtures that are part of the alternate. The alternate was solely done to increase our chances of landing on budget, and you saw how the numbers played out. So I think either will function absolutely fine in terms of our design intent and the character of the space. We do like the pendant lights. We think it will add quite a bit, and I think Trustee Supplet is correct in that this wouldn't be something that you would undo later or be very unlikely to. However, it's your money as the board, and we will be fine with what you decide.
Andy,
So-
what is the dollar amount that's already in contingency?
It's 31,448.
Yeah.
These pendant lights cost.
No, I mean in the project, because we have another contingency line for the project. Don't we? This is
There actually is not, Carol.
Oh, there isn't. Oh,
Yeah.
So, and at what point, Andy, do you have to make the hard decision on what lights you're going in? I guess one of the reasons why potentially is, do we have to make that decision right now? Can we see what happens with a lot of the other things, and then if the time comes that we don't need that,
Yeah.
then we can make that switch over?
It ultimately comes down to what the backing up when the lights will be needed during the construction process and backing that up by the lead time. I don't know exactly what the lead time on these fixtures are, but we can find that out. I do believe the board has the ability to accept an alternate within a certain point after this decision. So you could, and I want to say that's not a 60-day period. So if we get out of the gate and see that we don't have any other major unforeseen items and this money was there, you'd have about 60 days. However, we'd want to check with Shales McNutt to see what the schedule for the project is and make sure that we're not holding up anything so that we would have a situation where we'd have no lights there when we needed them.
Can I ask a question real quick? Andy and Natalie, did we not change the number of tables from the original main space to what we just saw in the revised? There aren't even as many work tables in that space as there were previously, correct?
We planned it for 4 tables initially, but you have expansion space up to 6 tables.
Okay, because this main original picture looks like a lot more tables. Then John, can you show the second slide, please? Then the second slide with the fluorescent. See what I'm talking about?
There's 6 tables in both.
there's 6 there too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just different styles of tables. We just wanted, we wanted to just show the capacity of the space. And I'd remind everybody again that no furniture has been selected yet. We really needed to get to this point to make sure we were on budget and can move forward with those selections and colors, which we'll be talking about in the next month or so with you.
So,
And if I may, you're talking about a purchase that's less than 1% of the total cost of this construction. And to delay it, let's make a decision tonight, not make this a protracted discussion. on something about that's less than 1% of the total construction cost.
I'd like to add something here. John, one of the reasons besides aesthetics, at least I thought I heard this, that you were saying it was easier to add more with the pendant lighting. Am I wrong? Or no, that's not the case?
I'm sorry, Christine, no, it will not be easier to add more. It's all in the wiring runs that we have to make.
Okay, so it makes no difference. So, okay. All right. Has to be done up front. Okay.
All right, so let's kind of take a vote here. Carol, what I know what John's thought is. Carol, what's your thought?
Well, I'm a little concerned about contingency, you know, I mean, this is an old building. Or have you used laser looking in the walls? You know what you're getting into. I'm always a little concerned when, you know, we're retrofitting old buildings and, you know, something would pop up. That would be my only concern.
Yeah.
I mean, I like these pendant lights too, but, you know, if we're really, really concerned about not going a penny over what we budgeted, to me, $7,000 isn't that much, you know, so if we did go over that amount, I would not be upset at all. But I am concerned a little bit about contingency right now.
So does that mean no for?
Oh, I don't know. It's maybe.
Well,
Okay, Deb, how about you?
I mean, I like the pendant lights better. My concern is this. So Natalie, will these pendant lights, there'll definitely be as much illumination on the work tables as there will be with the other option. Is that correct?
Yes.
Then I'm okay with the pendant lights.
Okay, Christy, how about you?
The same concern as Deb made, as long as it has the same amount of illumination for people on the desks. Absolutely. I'm assuming it's variable too with these pendant lights, right? Is it a variable option?
It would be, if it is variable, it would be, need to be set up at the time of the wiring of the lights. But with the pendant lights, I'm assuming that it is not a variable option. The linear panels had more flexibility than these pendant lights did.
Oh, gee. All right. I like it aesthetically. I'll go with the pendant lights because I want it to be warm for people and welcoming.
Okay. All right, well then that's the 3 right there out of the 5 that we need. Yeah, it's not that I don't think they're better, and I agree with you totally, John. I'm just thinking that even though it's a small percentage, we need to keep every bit of contingency we have, and to me, it's not as big of a difference. But I do understand. So I would be against it at this particular point. But
Okay.
there's 3 that want it. So in this
all
particular.
right, so I'll make the motion. The Board of Library Trustees accepts the base bid results from bid release number 3, plus alternates number 2, number 7, and number 8. Of 694,452, plus a contingency amount of 24048. Total not to exceed $724,000 for the construction of the makerspace.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other comments? Because
Yeah, you know, are we absolutely positive that we want to lock ourselves into that 724,000 not to exceed? You know, you just never know. And I've gone through this before where people say, that was the budget. And, you know, and a lot of criticism because there were some things that were not foreseen at the time. Although we're much farther, I know, gone
yeah.
through bidding. But
You know, Carol raises a good point, and I'd be glad to amend that rather than say for a total not to exceed 724,000, for a total budgeted.
yes, I'm more comfortable with that.
For the construction of the makerspace.
But we can always come back, can't we? And amend it at any point that we want to if something comes up.
We can, but to say not to exceed, to me, is a real, you're locking yourself in.
Right, and anytime you amend
I like
something
John's suggestion better. It just gives, if we have to exceed it, you can, there's a stronger explanation than if we have voted not to exceed. So,
And the other point would be, anytime you amend something like this, it's going to bring public scrutiny, one way or the
Right.
other.
yes, thank you, John. That's what I
Well,
was
but we do have the
inferring.
budget set at, we do have the budget set at 724 though. So if it does, or we're going to agree on this amount and we're going to have to, if we add anything onto these costs, we're going to have to come back and approve those anyways. We're going to have.
Yes,
to-
that's right.
Yeah.
We have to do a budget amendment is what we have to do.
Right, so whether or not we say not to exceed 724, or we say some other more general term, we're still going to be in that spot where we're going to have to come back.
Right,
So-
but not to exceed sounds like it's a final thing. And I don't know, I just, there's just a few unknowns here, I think. And
Yeah, I
I'm
think it's good advice.
comfortable saying the budgeted amount, but you're right, Greg, yes, it would have to come back to us anyway. It's just, it's in many ways, it's semantics, but
And remember though, and I know it was a large amount, but the reason why we're sitting here, we didn't approve this, was it 2 months ago, was because we wanted it to be under budget and we wanted it to be at this particular spot. That's why we pushed it to come back to this. So that number to me is important. You know, that's what we've budgeted. That's what we've told the people of the village that we're going to that we're going to do.
Well,
Well,
that's
I
what the
mean-
amendment would say for a total budget of 724,000 for the construction of the makerspace.
right, I guess I'm thinking, what if something comes up and it's $1,500 to make kind of a nice difference? And you know, I mean, that's really nothing. But if you say not to exceed 724, then I would think the staff will say, we're not even going to bring that to the board. We're not, you know, because we won't do that because it's yeah. But yeah,
But I suppose regardless of how it's worded, and if we want to word it that way, that's fine. But because regardless though of how it's worded, you know, let's not fool ourselves. It is going to come back, and we're going to have to discuss it. We're going to have to increase it. Regardless if we say not to exceed or we say, you know, for the budget amount of 724, because it's really probably 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
True,
So-
language is important.
So if you want, I agree fully. That's why I'm making the statement of this, because we very much want to keep it. That was what we put out, that we want to keep this to the budget. And now we're giving ourselves kind of room to be able to wiggle around that.
Well, no, we're not, because it's for the same conversation. We would have to come back and approve a higher budget. What we're saying is we don't want to put this in writing because it's going to bring public scrutiny if we have to come and amend that language, which says not to exceed, and say, oh, now we're deciding we're going to exceed it.
So we're
John,
Go
why
ahead.
doesn't John state his motion again?
Sure.
So it's the Board of Library Trustees accepts the base bid results from bid release number 3 plus alternates number 2, number 7, and number 8 in the amount of 694,452 plus a contingency amount of 24048 for a total budget of 724,000 for the construction of the makerspace.
And then I second it.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? Okay. Janet, let's do a roll call, please.
Trustee Meadow,
yes,
trustee Smart,
Yes,
trustee Supplet,
Aye.
trustee Tangney,
Yes.
president Zick.
Yes. Okay. Let's go on to action item 2, COVID-19 related service changes.
Okay, so I'm bringing back the recommendation to continue to keep the building closed to the public based on further one second, I'm going to, John, okay, there we go. Based on further information from Governor Pritzker, the Illinois Department of Public Health, and the rest of the information out there regarding the COVID-19 cases. In this past week, Governor Pritzker has made it very clear that there is a surge on top of a surge coming based on, or as a follow-up from the Thanksgiving holiday. So they are expecting the cases to increase. They've not seen it yet, but they are expecting the cases to increase. And then the same thing was said for the other holidays coming up, such as Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas, and New Year's. So my recommendation is based on those press conferences and the information that we've received regarding or related to that. We have continued to expand services to the community in different ways since the closure. We've moved our digital services operations to the lower core entrance, vestibule entrance there, where customers can come and use a computer. They can print, they can fax, they can scan. We have a paper shredder there. We also have laptops that are lendable for use for a couple hours in the parking lot where Wi-Fi is available. So we've really done everything we can to provide as many services to our community as possible while we're closed, while the building is closed to the public. We also are continuing drive-through and walk-up, hold pickup locations. Our bookmobile still is circulating and dropping items off. It's really a hold pickup location also out in the community, as well as our return bins throughout the community. So we do have a lot of services that we're offering. We've continued service with the schools and actually increased service with the schools based on them reaching out to us. So we're actually utilizing staff from other departments in other ways, such as school partnerships and helping out in the circulation department. So we are doing a lot internally. We are providing services to our community. At our last meeting, we discussed the staff pay scenarios. We talked about those 3 different scenarios. Our recommendation was scenario 2 to continue to pay non-exempt staff for the hours worked and 2/3 of their hourly rate for hours not worked. We have not had to utilize that since we've closed. We do have a demand for work here, and our HR department has been the center point for determining or for making positions available and matching staff up to those roles as managers are providing that information to the HR department. So we do have a good system in place. We are, our staff are working, and we have not had anyone utilize that 2/3 pay. It is a safety net if we ever, if we did have to get to that point where we couldn't fulfill those hours. At least that would be similar to unemployment, which would also pay 2/3, which we've not had any situations with that either. So that's kind of a summary of what I'm bringing back to you. I'm looking to continue. Well, I'm looking for the authorization to keep the building closed through January 20th. We have our January board meeting, January 19th, and listening to all the press conferences and everything this week, I feel like if there's a major Thanksgiving surge and then other surges following, I feel like we would have a lot of information in mid-January where we'd be able to continue this conversation and then make another decision as to where we go from there. So I'd be happy to answer any questions or give you further information at this point. John?
Debbie's speaking, but she's on mute.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm off mute now. There you go. I did a little work on this over the weekend, so I want to go on the record with a couple of things. First and foremost, I want to make sure everybody is aware the Arlington Heights Park District is not open at full capacity. They are doing things by appointment only, and many of their functions are closed. So that's the first thing I want to go on the record for. So they are not open unabated. Second of all, I did confirm that Northwest Community Hospital is at 100% capacity for their ICU beds at this time. At least over the weekend they were. So they are seeing an uptick, and we need to be cognizant of that. Lastly, I did a little work on this scenario too. And what I found out is this. We pay, there's an unemployment premium that you're required to pay on a yearly basis, correct, Mike? Mike?
Donna, do you want to address that?
Nope.
There
I
you go.
guess not. But the scenario is this. Once that premium is determined by your experience. And so your premium goes up and down based on the experience you have or the claims you have. So in essence, what will happen is if we have people go on unemployment, our premium scenario will go up, and it goes up pretty closely to that of our experience of what people are collecting from our employment base, because much of the current premium that's paid for unemployment actually does not go to pay unemployment. A lot of that amount goes for administrative costs, just so people are aware. So those are the 3 points I want to make in this, and I think we can carry on the conversation. One, the Park District is not working open at full capacity. They have limited their access also. 2, the ICU beds over at Northwest Community Hospital were full this weekend, 100% full. And 3, we will see some experience on the back end regards to people going on unemployment. And it will correlate to the amount of unemployment they do claim. That's what I have to say.
John, did you have something?
Yes, thanks very much. Thanks very much for that, Trustee Smart. That actually goes a long way towards answering the questions that I was going to ask, which were basically, we're paying into an insurance product. And then we're also suggesting that we're going to meet people's salaries at the same time. So we're not seeing the advantage of the insurance, but based upon what Trustee Smart has described, we probably wouldn't see any particular advantage to that insurance anyway. So thank you for that.
Any other comments? Okay, so Christy, did you have something?
Just going to say what Deb has reported is, I think, critical as well. The hospital being at full capacity and this issue about insurance, I think it's, and as Mike has indicated, he has had no problems keeping everyone busy. So there's plenty of work to be done. And we're doing a much better job in some ways than the Park District. Just as a user of the Park District, I can't even get into any classes because they have cut their capacity so radically that it's tough. I mean, they've had to make tough decisions. I'm not being critical. I'm just saying that they're definitely not at the level they used to be. So I agree. Deb was great points.
Yeah, I agree. It's great points too. And I agree, with Mike and everybody too. What you've been doing to keep the library going and keep everybody busy and that it's not just keeping everybody busy, keeping everybody doing things that are helping the people of the village and doing what we're supposed to do. So, thank you all very much for that. There are 2 motions that are on here that we have to approve. Would anybody like to make the first one?
I'll make the first motion of the Board of Library Trustees authorizes the Executive Director to close the library building to the public effective December 8th, 2020 through January 20th, 2021.
Now, it was a second. I'm sorry. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. One point on that too, it's through, so we're saying through January 20th, 2021, but that doesn't mean that we have to keep it closed to January 20th, 2021. If things change, we can effectively open it up before that. Correct, Mike?
That's correct. So this authorizes me to close the building through that time in the power that the board has given me. However, if, as these press conferences continue, if they're not seeing that surge or if the cases drop, we would then change our course of direction. But from everything that I'm hearing, I think it's safe to continue down this path. But yes, we could cut that short if the cases go the other way.
Okay, great. Any other comments on that? Okay, Janet, can we have a roll call on that, please?
Trustee Meadow,
Yes.
trustee Smart,
You're
trustee
on mute.
Smart,
Yep, yes,
trustee Suplet,
Aye.
trustee Tangney,
Yes.
President Zick.
Yes. Okay, would somebody like to make the motion too?
I move that the Board of Library Trustees authorizes the executive director to extend pay to exempt staff and at the minimum 2/3 pay to non-exempt staff for the regular budgeted hours through January 20th, 2021. Is that correct, Mike?
That is correct.
Okay.
We have a second?
Second.
Great. Any other comments on that one? Okay, Janet, another roll call, please.
Trustee Meadow,
Yes.
trustee Smart,
Yes,
trustee Suplet,
Aye.
trustee Tangney,
Yes.
President Zick.
Yes. All right, very good. All right, let's move on to action item 3, correct? Yeah, extension of the temporary policy due to COVID-19.
Okay, so this was a temporary policy that we had brought a number of months ago. We had extended it through the end of the year. This policy gives myself gives me the ability to adjust some of these policies on a temporary basis during these times where we're flexing our services and hours. So I'm bringing this back for consideration to extend this through February, the February board meeting. My thought on that is if we are looking at January 20th to continue to keep the building closed, even after that, if we open the building again, we will still have some of these services that are going to be in flux. So I feel like this policy gives us the ability to adjust on a day-to-day basis without having to bring back these changes to the board for consideration. And be happy to address any questions that the board has.
Something about the wording, I'm just trying to, getting to me when I was reading it the Board of Library Trustees recognizes and extends the temporary COVID-19 policy, amending existing policies. We're not necessarily amending existing policies, is that correct? But we're giving you the authorization to amend the existing policies temporarily through February 7th, 2021?
Some of these policies and the things that we have identified here are amendments to the policies. So there's actually, things like expansion of discretionary personal leave and/or other leaves of absence as approved by me. That's worded differently than in the policy. So there are some changes in here, like use of vacation time, how we're asking staff to use vacation time. That's explicitly said in here. But then other ones, it just says will be determined at the discretion of the executive director. So it's kind of a mix. We are amending some and then other ones, it's just shifting that ability for me to be able to amend.
Okay, does this mean then, by very nature of what we're saying, that these are temporary changes, that when we are through with this time period, that they revert back to their original form?
Yes, because even the statements that give me the discretion, it's an amendment to those policies. So when this policy is no longer active, that would go away. So I would no longer have that ability.
Okay, trustees, any questions or comments? Okay, do we have a motion then?
I can do it. The Board of Library Trustees recognizes and extends the temporary COVID-19 policy, amending existing policies effective January 1st through February 17th, 2021.
I'll second.
Okay, thanks. Any more comments or questions on this one? Okay, Janet, roll call, please.
Trustee Meadow,
Yes.
Trustee Smart,
Yes.
trustee Supplet,
Aye.
trustee Tammy,
Yes,
Nizick.
Yes. Okay, let's move on to action item 4, revisions to human resources policies, holiday and bereavement and personal leave.
So we are bringing back the HR policies that we discussed. I believe it was at the November Committee of the Whole meeting. You guys have seen the holiday equipment, or I'm sorry, employment and benefit categories, sick leave and vacation. This time I'm adding the bereavement and personal leave. This was one that we were discussing internally as of the last meeting. So the holidays policy I'll address first. In our discussion at the Committee of the Whole meeting, we had talked about changing out any of the holidays that the library is open, but is recognized as a floating holiday, or I'm sorry, not a floating holiday. Well, yeah, a floating holiday. And they were paid out based on when the holiday took place. So Columbus Day is one that we talked about. On Columbus Day, staff would receive access to that day, and then they'd be able to use it. I believe it's 90 days within 90 days of that day. The discussion was, why don't we take all of those days, I think there were 5 of them, that were not tied to a library closure, and make them a floating holiday. After further discussion with my staff after that meeting, making all 5 of those floating holidays does add some complexity to the way they're managed. Plus, it increases out liability for the library, in that when at the beginning of the year, staff would have access to essentially 6 floating holidays. And if they were to, they could utilize those right off the bat. What my suggestion here is, because Columbus Day was the one that we were most focused on, my suggestion is we move Columbus Day to an additional floating holiday, and then keep the other ones as they were. So they're awarded throughout the year instead of all at once. So that's that one. The bereavement was one that we had been discussing internally. All of these, there were small changes in all of these policies. A lot of them is terminology and how we do some of the procedural things, also formatting and the category names. But with the bereavement, we had discussed, instead of having, well, currently bereavement is accrued throughout the year. So you have 4 days that's accrued throughout the year. And nobody knows when they're going to need bereavement. And so we felt that it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to make that an accrued benefit. And so our suggestion here is to not make it an accrued benefit, but treat it more like jury duty, where you just have 4 days available. You can use them throughout the year. If you don't use them, you don't. So that's the change there. There was also discussion at the staff level about making bereavement available to all staff, not just benefited staff. And so we did not include that in the policy, but I do bring that for your consideration and discussion. I don't think many other libraries are doing that, but it might be a nice perk for unbenefited staff. So those are the big changes since you saw these policies last time. I would be happy to entertain any questions, or if there's if any of the rest of the administration team has anything to add to this, I'd be welcome to add that now.
So that last point that you made, so you're saying what the bereavement isn't going towards non-exempt at this particular point. Is that correct?
It's for benefited, non-exempt, or well, it's any benefited staff. So right now, non-exempt, non-benefited staff do not receive bereavement. It's only benefited.
Okay.
Mike, does the personnel policy define how bereavement can be used? In other words, is if your 6th cousin, twice removed, passes on, bereavement could be used for that?
I don't think we get that detailed in here.
I mean, do we specifically state, parents, children, spouses?
We say the death of a family member or friend.
Oh, okay.
That's a good point, Carol. I know at my At my work, it's all based on, if it's a spouse, a parent, a sibling, a child, we get 5 days actually. If it's an aunt or uncle or something like that, it goes down to 3. I think if it's a friend, you get the 1 day, I believe is what it is. So I think that's kind of where you're going, Carol. That
Well,
based,
our policy, I like this. I may change our policy at Gail Borden. It's very specific. It outlines every single, so I know, like, when my brother-in-law passed, and my nephew, I could not take bereavement. I took vacation time because it didn't fall within the guidelines. So I may change this. We'll see what the rest of my cabinet says. But I think this is nice. I think it's generous. I will just add that what we did this year for non-benefited staff is we added, especially with everything going on with the pandemic, and this will help you in your decision on bereavement for unbenefited staff, is we added a prorated floating hours. So they got nothing before that. It was whatever they took off was unpaid. So anyone working under 20 hours would receive an equivalent of 2 days, prorated for the number of hours that they work. And it's just a nice little thing, so I would be in favor of doing this for the bereavement here too.
the trustees, any comments or thoughts? Good there. Okay. Yeah, and Carol, I agree with it. I think this is a nice thing too. I mean, it's one of these policies that you hope you don't have to use too often too.
Well, it shows compassion on the side of our
It
organization.
does. It absolutely does. Okay. Is there anything else, Mike, that you need to address in this?
No, I don't think so. I think what we'll do is we'll incorporate that potential change for our board meeting, and then let's bring this back for vote at the board meeting, if that is okay with the board.
It's fine. So we're not voting on anything now, correct? It said there's an action item.
That's correct. I put it as an action item just in case you guys wanted to vote on it tonight and take one thing off the agenda for the board meeting. But I can, unless there's any further discussion on it, I'll just go ahead and make these changes. It seems like you guys are good with the policies as they are, so it would be a quick agenda item at the board meeting anyway. So,
Okay, that's fine. Fine. Everybody else good with that? The trustees? Okay. Okay, let's move on now to action item 5, and that's the Prospect Heights Public Library District Letter of Support. If you remember, we talked about it last month. They had sent us about an annexation ordinance that they're putting in, and it did take up some properties that are in Arlington Heights, but this is being served, but they're currently being serviced by Prospect Heights for most things, for water, electric, I believe, and all those type of things you said, Mike, but weren't being covered by any library at that time, and that they are annexing in. I did send a copy of it was a pretty quick, straightforward letter that I sent to all the trustees based on it, and I can read it real quickly here, get into the record too. To Bill Moser, President, Prospect Heights Public Library District. Recently, we received your notice regarding your proposed annexation ordinance number 20-12-1, which includes residences which are located within Arlington Heights but serviced by facilities in Prospect Heights. At this time, these residents are not currently part of the Arlington Heights Memorial Library AHML coverage. Please know that the AHML board does fully support this proposed ordinance and annexation into the Prospect Heights Public Library District. Pretty straightforward. Does anybody have any issues with that?
I move approval of the letter as read by Greg.
A second.
Okay. And I had it coming from me, but I'm gonna have it coming from the entire board too. We'll put that. I think that's the proper thing. Okay, Janet, can we have a roll call on that?
Trustee Meadow,
Yes.
trustee Smart,
Yes,
trustee Supplet,
Aye.
trustee Tangy,
Yes,
and Zig.
Yes. Actually, I wasn't sure if I should abstain from that or not, but yes.
Greg, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Mike, are there any other areas that are similar to this in Arlington Heights?
No, not that I'm aware of. We did some looking. This is not just like an unincorporated area. This is a very different sort of scenario where these properties are served by Prospect Heights, but they're not recognized as part of the district. So it's a little bit different than an unincorporated space, and we've not been able to find another. We've not found any properties that are similar.
So
Okay.
are they paying their taxes to Prospect Heights, not the library? I mean, the city of Prospect Heights, but they have an Arlington Heights mailing address.
That's correct, right? And like their city stickers, Prospect Heights,
Yeah.
water, all that stuff is Prospect Heights.
Yeah.
Is it okay, Janet? Can I forward that over to you and put it on the library letterhead and everything? Is that okay? Okay, I will get that. I will get that over. Appreciate that very much. All right, and let's go on to item 6, fiscal year 2021 Illinois Public Library per capita grant update.
Okay, so we wanted to bring to you the requirements for the per capita grant this year. This year's a little bit different. They delayed it from being extended from being due in January to March. And I'm going to hand it off to Shannon to talk about what the requirements look like for this year.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
So like Mike said, the deadline for the per capita grant application has normally been January 15th. It has been extended to March 15th. And in 2017, we were made aware of what the requirements were for the per capita grant for 2018, 2019, and 2020. We were waiting to find out what the requirements were going to be for 2021. And one of them is for all of you and for the executive director to read this book in its entirety. So this will allow you some time to go through that while I prepare the application for your approval.
Homework.
Homework, you have homework.
Oh, gee, homework.
Well, in the past, they broke this down. It kind of irritates me because they broke it down by 2 or 3 chapters each year. And now we've got a new revision and they want us to go, from page 1 through page whatever, and go through this. I would only say, keep in mind when you read this, this is for all libraries in Illinois. And we have quite, so you may read something and say, I'm not quite sure, if we're doing this or whatever, know that we are one of the top premier libraries in the state of Illinois. And, this is also written for Dunlap Public Library down near Peoria, so don't get, I guess what I'm saying is don't get into the weeds on this.
Okay.
Think higher and feel like, if there's small things that we're not doing, yes, we can improve, of course, but we're doing so much now. And many of these libraries cannot equal even 50% of what we're doing. So just keep that in mind when you read through this. Don't get in the weeds.
That's an excellent point, Trustee Meadow. For example, one of the items on the checklist is that we have an answering service or an answering machine.
Yeah.
So, we will exceed, that
Right.
portion.
Right.
And you all might remember exactly what Trustee Meadow said. You might remember there were standard chapter reviews. You had to watch videos for continuing education. There was an outreach component. Those are the things that you did over the last 3 years. And this year you have to read the whole book.
Yeah, they just want to cram it into 1 year. I don't know what will be for the 22,
I'm not quite sure what will be left.
everything.
Well, this is for COVID probably. That's why they're making us read the whole thing.
Oh yeah, you're at home doing nothing. So you
Right, yeah,
Right.
you are.
So when we convene in February 2021 for discussion, how will that discussion move forward?
So I'll have the application ready for you to review, and how the application is laid out right now is that there are things that we have to meet or exceed or be working on for each chapter of those standards. So I will be working with each of the managers, for example, for technology or for programming. So I'll be meeting with the managers. We will be reviewing the checklist to see where we are meeting or showing progress, and I'll have those prepared for you on the application. We can discuss it at that time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Shannon, am I understanding correctly, then the discussion is going to surround this checklist to make sure that we qualify for the application. And by reading this document, you're going to help, as we are together, discuss how we do meet those points, right?
Correct. And as you're reading the book, you'll see that there's a checklist at the end of each chapter. So if you have any questions that you might want to go over, perhaps at the January COW, we could do that as well. What I'll have ready for you in February is the application about how we're meeting or working towards those for each checklist for each chapter.
Okay. Cool.
Wonderful. All right. Anything else on that? All right. So I guess we're moving on to others, or any other?
No other here.
No others here. I guess the only other thing is that we do have our board meeting then coming up Tuesday next week, the 15th, and then the committee of the whole meeting. The next one will be on January 11th, and we do have the village board combined meeting on was it January 16th? Is that when it was, Janet?
Yes.
January 16th on that one. Okay. All right. So can we have a motion for adjournment then?
I will move that we adjourn the Board of Library Trustees Special Board meeting of Monday, December 7th, 2020.
And I second it.
Janet, quick roll call, please.
Trustee Meadow? Trustee Meadow?
Yes.
Trustee Smart?
Yes.
Trustee Supplet?
Aye.
Trustee Tangney?
Yes.
President Zick?
Yes. Thank you, everybody, very much. Andy, Natalie, thanks for all your hard work. Mary, Donna, Janet, Julie, Shannon, have a great one.
Yeah. Be well. Be well.
Good night, everybody.
Happy holidays, everyone.
You too.